Yeah, in this class, we are going to discuss about creating the methods and calling the methods and working with the methods. Let's see, let's see some examples on that. Create a new class. Just give a name as method example. Let's create a method, public void. That one. So the syntax of the method is scope, return type, method name, method parameters, again which are optional. Okay, optional. And a starting parenthesis and a closing parenthesis. So when you say scope, scope is nothing but here it is public, and there are multiple different levels of different types of scopes are available, which we will see in the later sessions. But right now, remember, public is nothing but a scope. And return type. Okay, every method should have a return type. If a method is not returning anything, we have to say at least by specifying void. And method name, every method should have a method name. Here the method name is method1. Okay, and each method can have parameters or no parameters. In this method I have not used any parameters, so just one way of defining a method. Okay, so let's print. So we know to print something on the console, the statement which we use is system dot out dot println, right? Let's define this method 1. Now let's define another method, and this time name it as method 2. Okay, and also name it as method 2. Okay, so let's pass some parameters to it. Okay, int a, some parameters. So here what I'm doing, I'm getting two parameters. One is integer a and integer b. Okay, so a is called a parameter. Okay, a is called parameters, a comma b are parameters, and integers are whose data types. A's data type is integer and b's data type is integer. Okay, we already seen in our variable session. Every, we can also say a comma b are local variables too, because these variables a comma b are local to this method only. Okay, as it is defined in this method, we can say a comma b are parameters or a comma b are local variables. Remember this. Now integer are nothing but numbers, right? Integer, long, byte, short. Okay, so all those represents numbers. Where when it comes to float and double, also represents numbers, but it represents floating point numbers, right? So here I'm using integer a, integer b, and I'm adding a plus b, and I'm returning it. Okay, so when I return a plus b, so that is also will, the output will come to a number. Okay, so I should change the data type here as integer. Okay. So that's how we need to define the methods. Let's define one more method. Public void method, public void method 3, and this time I'm taking a string. Okay, str, string parameter. Okay, and yes, I'm doing a sysout, and I'm printing the str, and also I'm returning the same I'm returning the same variable, whichever is same parameter, whichever is passed to this method 3. I'm returning the same. Okay, here I'm returning string, so I have to change the data type to string. If I return float, I have to change the data type to float. Okay, remember that. So till now it's fine. We created 3 methods. Okay, let's method 1, method 2, and method 3 methods we created. So creation is okay. It's going well and good. Now it's the time to call these methods. How can we call these methods? Okay. So when a program is executed, when we execute a program, first it's going to look, the Java will be looking for a main method. Okay. If it doesn't find any main method, it's not gonna execute anything. Okay, let's say you are executing method example. Okay, so when you executing method example, it looks for a main method. If there is main method, it will execute all the statements in the main method. Otherwise it will not execute anything. So this we already know it. Okay, to call the methods and variables inside a to call the methods and variables of a class, first we need to create an object for that class, right? So this is we already discussed. What is that? To call the methods and variables of a class, we need to create an object for that class. This we already discussed. And with that object name dot method, object name dot variable. So this is the syntax, we already know it. Okay, let's use the same syntax and work with this example. So to create a object for a class, what is the syntax? The syntax is class name, object name, new class name. Okay, so this is the syntax. Okay, okay, now let's come back to main method. Let's create the object for this method example. The syntax is class name, let's type method and do control space. It's going to give you the remaining text to you. Method example, method example, new method example. Okay, method example dot. Now we can call any method. Method 1 again dot method 2. So for the method 2, we need to pass 2 parameters. Both are integers. Okay, let's pass 10, 20. Okay, now that's well and good. Now call method example dot method 3. So what is method 3? So it is expecting a string. Okay, let's pass to this. Okay, now let's run this program. Now you can see method 1, method 2, and so there. So this is fine. So let's look into the method 2 deeply. This method 2 is returning some value. Let's store this value into some other variable. Okay, int result 1. Okay, and also print this result. Result 1. Okay, because when I call the method 2, it is adding a plus b and returning the value to me. Okay, so when a method returns something, we can also store the return value into some variable. Here I'm storing in a result1 variable whose type is integer. In the same way, method 3 also returning something. What it is returning? It is returning string. Okay, so let's define a string variable. You can give any name. I'm just keep giving a result2. Okay, so let's run this program once again. Let's go here, click on method example. Now you can say method 1, method 2, and once method 2 is printed, a plus b is written, and that a plus b is nothing but 10 plus 20, 30 is written to result 1 now. It is 30, and I call method 3 where I printed str here is nothing but Sudhir, and the same thing I returned. Okay, here also I'm storing with result 2, and the same thing I printed here. So that's how it'll be. Now, so this is how we have to create the methods in a class, and this is how we have to call the methods. Okay, that's one thing. So what you need to remember as a summary for the method class is that every method will be having a scope and a return type and a method name, and each method starts with starting parenthesis and ending parenthesis. A method is used to execute a set of statements. Okay, so now here you can see there are two statements, one statement, sorry. And here you can see there are two statements. One is system.out.println method 2, and the other one is we are also doing some addition a plus b. That is also a statement. And finally, we are returning that value. Okay, a method basically used to do execute one or multiple statements. And to call a methods and variables inside a class, we have to create an object with the object name that is also called as a reference variable. Okay, using this reference variable, we can call the methods and variables. So that is about methods.